The most disturbing urban legends of the Appalachian region. Have you ever been deep in the woods and gotten that feeling you weren't alone? That little prickle on the back of your neck that just tells you to run? Well, in the Appalachian Mountains, that feeling has a name. For centuries, these hills have held stories of things you were never meant to see. And some of them are shockingly true. The ancient, rolling hills of Appalachia are more than just a mountain range. They're saturated with the memories of everyone who came before. The deep, shadowed hollers and misty peaks hold secrets, stories whispered from one generation to the next. But these aren't your typical campfire tales. What makes the legends of this region so unsettling is that they aren't just stories. They're echoes of real-world tragedies that have bled into folklore. These are tales of disaster, violence, and profound fear that became so ingrained in the culture, they spawned monsters. Today, we're not just exploring urban legends. We're digging into the chilling, true events that gave them life. We'll peel back the layers of myth to reveal the documented history, the real people, and the very real suffering that forged these terrifying tales. From omens of disaster to witches born of paranoia, these stories show how the very landscape of Appalachia can hold on to its darkest memories. So if you're drawn to the mysteries hidden in these old mountains, consider subscribing, because we're about to head into the heart of Appalachian horror, where history and legend become one. Section 1. The Mothman and the Silver Bridge Collapse. Our first story takes us to the quiet town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, where in the mid-1960s, an unfolding nightmare would forever link the town to a terrifying winged creature and one of the worst structural disasters in American history. This is the story of the Mothman. It all started on a cold November night in 1966. For the people of Point Pleasant, life was pretty predictable, but that was about to be shattered. Near an abandoned World War II munitions plant, a place locals called the TNT area, two young couples were out for a drive when their headlights caught something that defied all explanation. Standing by the road was a figure. It was shaped like a man, but it was huge, maybe 7 feet tall, with a massive pair of wings folded against its back. And then it turned to face them. The one detail that every witness would repeat was its eyes. Two huge, mesmerizing, glowing red discs that stared out of the darkness. Panicked, the couple sped away, but the creature launched itself into the air. It pursued their car, keeping pace even as they hit nearly 100 miles per hour. It didn't flap its wings like a bird. It just glided, its red eyes locked on them until they reached the town limits, where it finally veered off. Terrified, they went straight to the police. Deputy Millard Halstead listened to their story, and while he may have been skeptical, he knew they were genuinely scared. He later said, "I've known these kids all their lives. They'd never been in any trouble, and they were really scared. I took them seriously." Their story, published in the Point Pleasant Register with the headline, "Couples See Man-Sized Bird. Creature. Something," opened the floodgates. Over the next 13 months, sightings multiplied. A group of gravediggers reported seeing a brown human being soaring through the trees. Soon, more than 100 people came forward with their own encounters. Volunteer firefighters saw a very large bird with large red eyes. One local resident claimed his TV went haywire and his dog vanished the night he saw two red eyes staring at him from his barn. The creature was eventually dubbed the Mothman, a name inspired by the popular Batman TV series at the time. Point Pleasant was gripped by fear and fascination. Was it a military experiment from the old TNT area? An out-of-place sandhill crane, as some biologists suggested? Or was it something else, something supernatural? Some accounts even tell of strange men in black visiting witnesses and warning them to stay quiet. The sightings continued for just over a year. Then, on December 15, 1967, the story took a devastating turn. The Silver Bridge was the artery of Point Pleasant, a vital link across the Ohio River. That evening, at the height of rush hour, The bridge was packed with cars full of people heading home or out for Christmas shopping. Suddenly, with a sound like a gunshot, a single, critical eye-bar in the suspension chain snapped. The failure was catastrophic. In less than a minute, the entire bridge buckled and plunged into the frigid river. 46 people lost their lives. 2 were never recovered. It remains one of the deadliest bridge collapses in U.S. history. In the aftermath, as the community reeled from its loss, a chilling realization set in. The Mothman sightings, which had been a constant presence for 13 months, abruptly stopped. The creature was never reliably seen in Point Pleasant again. This is where the legend was truly forged. The official investigation concluded the collapse was due to a microscopic stress crack in a 40-year-old steel eye-bar, a tragic but physical failure. But for many locals, that wasn't enough. They remembered the creature that had haunted their nights. Some even claimed to have seen the Mothman on the bridge just before it fell. Had the Mothman been an omen of the coming disaster? Or was it something more sinister that caused the collapse? The creature became forever linked to the town's trauma. The story of the Mothman is so disturbing because it's not just about a monster in the woods. It's about a real community that suffered an unimaginable loss, and how that trauma gave birth to a legend that has haunted them ever since. From a public disaster that spawned a legend, our next story takes us to a much more private hell. We're traveling back to the early 1800s in Adams, Tennessee, to the farm of John Bell, a place that would become the epicenter of arguably America's most famous and malevolent haunting. This is the true story of the Bell Witch. Section 2. The Bell Witch of Adams, Tennessee. In the early 19th century, John Bell was a successful farmer and respected member of his community in an area now known as Adams, Tennessee. But in the summer of 1817, that peace was shattered. An unseen force began to terrorize the Bell family. A force so persistent and violent that its story would become one of the most documented paranormal cases in American history. It started subtly. While inspecting his cornfield, John Bell saw a bizarre animal he described as having the body of a dog and the head of a rabbit. He shot at it, but it vanished. That same night, the family heard strange beating sounds on the cabin walls. The sounds grew louder each night, and soon, the disturbances moved inside. The children would wake up screaming, their bed covers ripped from them by an invisible force. The family heard whispering, scratching, and growling, but could find no source. For a year, John Bell kept it a secret, fearing he'd be ridiculed. But as the activity escalated to physical violence, he confided in a friend, James Johnston. Johnston stayed the night and experienced the terror firsthand, concluding they were tormented by a spirit, just like in the Bible. Word spread like wildfire. The haunting became a regional sensation, and the entity eventually found its voice. It was shrill and commanding, and when asked who it was, it claimed to be the witch of a local woman named Kate Batts. The name stuck, and the entity became known as Kate, or the Bell Witch. Kate was intelligent, clairvoyant, and profoundly cruel. It could quote scripture from sermons being given miles away and reveal visitors' deepest secrets. But its true venom was reserved for John Bell, whom it called Old Jack Bell, and his youngest daughter, Betsy. The torment was relentless. Kate would pull Betsy's hair, slap her, and stick her with invisible pins. It seemed determined to ruin her life, forbidding her marriage to a young man she loved, Joshua Gardner. Whenever Gardner visited, the witch would viciously attack Betsy until the couple was forced to break off their engagement. But its ultimate goal, which it stated openly, was the death of John Bell. For years, it tormented him with curses and physical beatings, causing strange ailments like facial twitching and seizures. The witch's voice would shriek with laughter at his pain. The ordeal climaxed in December 1820. After a violent fit, John Bell fell into a coma. The family then found a strange vial of dark liquid in the medicine cupboard. The witch's voice proudly shrieked that it had given old Jack a big dose of that last night, which fixed him. To test it, they put a drop on the cat's tongue. The animal died instantly. John Bell passed away on December 20th, 1820. While no official government record attributes his death to a spirit, the legend holds that he is the only person in American history to be killed by a supernatural entity. The story of the Bell Witch is not just folklore. It's one of the most thoroughly documented paranormal cases in history, largely based on a manuscript by one of John's sons, Richard Williams Bell, titled Our Family's Trouble. The terror this family endured was real. Kate wasn't just a ghost. It was a domestic terrorist that turned a family's home into a living hell, and to this day, has never been fully explained. While the Bell Witch terrorized a single family, our next tale explores how the fear of witchcraft consumed an entire community, leading to mysterious deaths and vigilante justice. We're heading to the isolated hollers of Clay County, West Virginia, around the turn of the 20th century, to a place that earned the chilling name. Booger Hole. Section 3. The Witch of Booger Hole. In the rugged hills of Clay County, West Virginia, lies a small community once known as Booger Hole. The name comes from the Appalachian term for bogeyman, a hint at the area's reputation for being haunted and dangerous. Around the turn of the 20th century, that unease ignited a fire of paranoia that would leave a dark stain on the region's history. The story often centers on an elderly woman, sometimes called Lacey Ann Boggs or Grandma Thorne. Around 1899, the widowed woman moved into an abandoned schoolhouse in Booger Hole. She was an outsider who likely practiced folk medicine, and in the superstitious culture of rural Appalachia, this made her a target. Soon, rumors started. The Cottrell family, neighbors of Lacey, and began telling people she was a witch. They made some wild claims, with the family patriarch testifying that Lacey and would visit him in his dreams, force his spirit from his body, and ride him like a horse through the woods, whipping him and having insects sting him. These accusations landed in a community already terrified by a string of unexplained deaths. A man named Henry Hargis was found murdered. A peddler vanished. Another local, Preston Tanner, was found dead in his burned-down cabin. In the minds of the isolated residents of Booger Hole, this had to be the work of a supernatural force. They needed a scapegoat, and Lacey Ann Boggs, the strange old woman in the abandoned schoolhouse, was the perfect fit. The story came to a brutal end one night around 1901. As Lacey Ann sat by the fire, a shot rang out from the darkness. She was shot in the back and killed. An investigation followed, and members of the Cottrell family were arrested. At the trial, they pleaded not guilty, claiming their actions were justified because Lacey Ann was a witch who tormented them. Shockingly, many in the courtroom supported this defense. Justice was never truly served for Lacey Ann's murder. But the violence didn't stop. The paranoia deepened, leading to an act of vigilante justice in 1917. Fed up with the law, a mob of locals took matters into their own hands. They posted notices vowing to cleanse Booger Hole of the families they blamed for the murders, and then dynamited several of their homes, forcing them to flee forever. After this violent exodus, the strange wave of death in Booger Hole finally subsided. The legend of the Witch of Booger Hole is a disturbing example of how fear can curdle into violence. Lacey Ann Boggs was likely a vulnerable woman who became the focus of a community's hysteria. The true horror of this story isn't the possibility of witchcraft, but the certainty of what happens when a community, steeped in isolation, decides to hunt its own monsters and becomes monstrous itself. Not all Appalachian legends are about monsters or human darkness. Some are born from the land itself. Our next story takes us to the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina to witness a phenomenon that has puzzled people for centuries: the Brown Mountain Lights. Section 4. The Brown Mountain Lights. For hundreds of years, on clear nights near Burke County, North Carolina, something mysterious happens. Strange, glowing orbs of light appear over Brown Mountain. They flicker, hover above the trees, and then vanish as silently as they came. These are the Brown Mountain lights, a mystery where science and folklore collide. The lights aren't a new discovery. While they gained widespread attention in the early 1900s, their history may stretch back much further. The Cherokee have stories about them that connect them to a great battle fought against the Catawba tribe around the year 1200. The legend says the lights are the souls of Cherokee maidens, still searching with torches for their loved ones lost in the fight. The first widely cited scientific investigation took place in 1913. Though some point to the writings of a German engineer named Gerard de Brom in 1771 as an earlier account, it's debated whether he was describing the same phenomenon. Other folklore ties the lights to the ghost of a missing hunter from the 1850s, his lantern still searching for him. Science, of course, has tried to find a rational explanation. A 1922 U.S. Geological survey concluded the lights were just refracted headlights from cars and trains in the valley. And yes, many sightings can be chalked up to man-made lights. But this has never fully explained the sightings documented before cars and trains existed, or those that behave in truly bizarre ways. Other theories include swamp gas, ball lightning, or even the piezoelectric effect, where pressure on quartz-rich rock could generate light. But despite numerous studies, no single theory has stuck. The mystery endures. And maybe that's the point. The Cherokee legend doesn't try to explain the light's physics. It explains their meaning. It gives them emotion, history, and a connection to love and loss. Whether the lights are geology or ghosts, their presence speaks to the profound mystery embedded in the Appalachian landscape. They are a silent story told by the mountain itself, a story of a battle long over, but a search that never ends. Like the Brown Mountain lights, our final story is a direct echo of a brutal historical event. But where the lights are mysterious, this legend is one of pure horror. We go to colonial Pennsylvania in the mid-1700s, to the site of the Penns Creek Massacre. Section 5. The Penns Creek Massacre. Our final journey takes us to the banks of the Susquehanna River in central Pennsylvania, to a time when the American frontier was a bloody, unforgiving place. Here, a single brutal event in the autumn of 1755 was so traumatic it gave rise to ghost stories that persist to this day. This is the history and haunting of the Penns Creek Massacre. On October 16, 1755, the fragile peace between European settlers and the Lenape people was shattered. The French and Indian War was raging, and the Lenape, who had been pushed from their lands by encroaching settlements, decided to strike back. Before dawn, a war party descended on the small, isolated settlement at Penns Creek. The attack was swift and merciless. The warriors fell upon a settlement of about 26 German and Swiss immigrants. One of the first victims was a farmer named Jean-Jacques Leroy, who was ambushed and killed. In total, about 14 settlers were killed, and 11 more, mostly women and children, were taken captive, though historical records vary slightly on the exact numbers. One man escaped to carry the horrifying news. The Penns Creek Massacre was the first in a series of brutal raids that sparked terror across the Pennsylvania frontier. Settlers abandoned their homes, and the area was so traumatized that it was largely deserted by colonists for nearly a decade. The violence had, in a sense, poisoned the land itself. And it's from this poisoned ground that the legends grew. The historical event is a documented tragedy, but oral tradition speaks of a horror that never left. For generations, people traveling through the area at night have reported seeing ghostly apparitions along the creek, said to be the spirits of the massacred settlers, still wandering the place of their violent end. A related local legend, also born from the conflicts of the era, tells of a doomed love between members of the Oneida and Lenni Lenape tribes, which ended in death and a curse. These stories are more than simple ghost tales. They are a form of cultural memory. The ghost stories aren't just meant to frighten. They serve as a raw reminder of that violence. The legend is a living memorial to the people who were killed or captured on that terrible day. The spectral figures seen along the creek aren't just anonymous ghouls. They are the ghosts of the Lou Roy family, the Leininger family, and their neighbors, real people whose lives were cut short. Their legend is a chilling testament to the idea that some places hold onto their pain, and that the echoes of a massacre can continue to sound for centuries. From the tragic harbinger of Point Pleasant to the malevolent spirit on the Bell family farm, from the paranoia-fueled violence of Booger Hole to the ethereal grieving of the Brown Mountain Lights and the lingering ghosts of Penn's Creek, the legends of Appalachia are etched into the very soul of the mountains. As we've seen, these aren't just campfire tales. They're cultural scars left by real events, born from isolation, terror, disaster, and paranoia. The mountains themselves, vast, ancient, and indifferent, act as the perfect vessel for these memories, holding them in the misty air and the silent, watchful ridges. These stories are a powerful reminder that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones that are real, and the most persistent ghosts are the echoes of history itself. What do you think? Are these stories just folklore, or are they the echoes of real, historical trauma? Let us know your theories in the comments below. And if you have a local legend from your own corner of the woods, we'd love to hear it. The Appalachian region is vast, and its stories are endless. If you enjoyed uncovering these hidden histories, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more dives into the world's most disturbing legends. Thanks for watching.